Hello, and welcome back to the Waistline Podcast. My name is Syatt. I am your host, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for joining me. If this is your first time or you're a long-time viewer and listener, I really appreciate you coming and watching. If you would like to be a guest on the Waistline Podcast, email me, waistlinepodcast@gmail.com, and you actually have a little bit more time. When I said last week I was going to be sending out messages to everyone, I ended up fibbing a little bit because I was unaware or forgot that the next 2 weeks are Jewish holiday weeks, and I am a little bit unavailable over the next couple weeks. Happy holidays to any of my fellow chosen people out there who are spending a lot of time in temple. And you might be thinking, oh, Lee has some time off of work. No, it is it's not terrible, but they're long days, and I don't speak Hebrew, so it's a lot like when like a 4-year-old explains a movie to you, and you understand some of it. You're like, oh, that sounds interesting, and you like just start, oh, really? And like I have no, and you even ask the parents, like, what did they say? You're like, I don't know. So that's a lot what the Jewish holidays are like. But I'm excited. Tonight is Monday night, and I get to go have dinner with my aunt and uncle. It's a little bit frustrating because, for those of you who don't know, I have a little system where Monday nights is tuna night, and I don't know why. Like, it's just weird to me whenever I have to break that habit. I just like it because it's low in calories. It's a lot of protein. I feel pretty full, and I've just become accustomed to having it. I have no idea how many weeks in a row I've done it, but I've been doing this for almost, I guess, what is it? It's like probably 9.5 months. And I've done it. I've only missed it a few times. I've done it the majority of the time. So it's always a little bit of a bummer when I have to miss it. But the food, that's one thing about my aunt is Italian. So some of my, oh God. So my aunt, so she makes some of the best. But then if you know me from any of my other podcasts, I had a joke, or not even a joke, but I had a talk with Action Bronson once about how Jewish food wasn't my favorite food. Now, that's true with one very specific exception: brisket. Oh, my God. Now, if you've had barbecue, you might be like, oh, is it that? Yes, but different. My mom makes it with like this onion gravy sauce sort of thing. It's my favorite meal in the entire world is that brisket with latkes and green beans. And we're not having latkes because that's a basically a Jewish hash brown that you have during Hanukkah. So that's at the end of the year. I already told her that we're having it again this year, so I'm very much looking forward to that. But I'm actually adjusting my. I won't call it a cheat day because I don't go to like McDonald's and get Oreos. But my little extra calorie day, I'm not going to be having it on Tuesday this week because Wednesday night we're having brisket, and I am very excited. So it's just that's part of what I'm learning is, adjusting. You don't have to eat like I used to eat. Like every meal was like a full on cheat meal, and that's how I got to be 336 pounds. So I'm very happy to not be that big anymore. I just threw it. I actually had to cut my belt today. I don't know, what is the name of this? I don't know the name of it. Maybe it's that. It might be Lindor. I'm not sure, but they have these belts. Like, listen, let's see if you can hear this. It's my favorite belt. I've had a few of them. And this used to be so big that I couldn't do it, but could you hear that? Sounded like I just farted a little bit, but it's a belt with like a ratcheting system, and it's so much better than like the holes, because you go when when you're losing weight, you go in between holes, and it's frustrating. Your pants fall down. I love these belts, and it comes in like a really big size, and then you can cut it down. And when I was at my biggest, like when I remember once, like I would go to places sometimes with my jeans just totally unbuttoned, or if not that, like my belt would be unbuttoned when I was driving, and when I got there, I would put the belt on because it hurt. It hurt your stomach. I think it's like the I think fat guys kind of understand a little bit of the bra pain that women go through, and it's in our belts because it really like that. Your stomach gets red and it hurts. Maybe it's not the same, but it's in the same arena. But I remember I got out of the car and I was fastening my belt, and it just wouldn't. This belt that I think was like 45 inches just wouldn't click in, and now I had to cut like 4 inches off of it. So that's always that. The little things like that always help. Um, I I'm very excited about today's episode because it's sort of a repeat guest. The guest today is Dr. Tyler Manley. He's a doctor in Wisconsin, and we met, and I had him as a guest on my other podcast, What Was I Thinking? It's episode number 18, I believe. Let me double check. I have it written down, but I forgot because my memory is gone. Yes, number 18. And we recorded this in February of this year, 2021, if you're listening in the future. And it's titled, like, I think it's something like when a fat guy asks a doctor all the questions he wants to know. And I was just under 2 months into this journey, or whatever you want to call it, into losing weight. And I had a lot of questions. And I was very nervous. And I don't like going to doctors. And we talked about it. So I had Tyler on again this week, and I'll include links to that episode as well. But I wanted to have him on the waistline to talk about what happened in losing 100 pounds. Like, what did my body go through, what it's like now. And it's a short talk, but I think it's very interesting. And I liked very much having him on. Please listen to the first one when, like I said, there will be links included to that. And thank you so much to Tyler for coming on. I'm going to introduce him in a second. I do want to give another update on my weight loss. Last week was a little bit of I found myself, and I think I spoke about this last week, getting a little bit off track with the dieting. And not crazy, but, just not being as strict as I should be, and having too much, having one cheat day go to 2 cheat days, and it held me back. And so last week I actually did like a triple workout on my weigh-in day. I did kettlebells before I left the house, and I did 2 walks, which I normally don't do, but I just, and I know it's not good to be so focused on the number, but I am. I mean, I'm only human, and the number, if it doesn't go down, it frustrates me. So I did that, and I was able to lose 1 pound. So not a huge week, but it's better than gaining, and that's all I'm really looking for right now. Obviously, I'd like it to be 2, 3, 4. I love it to be 20 pounds, but that's not realistic. So I'm officially, as of last week, 219.4, which makes me down a total of 116.6 pounds. I had a goal of losing 3.4 this week to get me down to 120. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think I'll probably get down. I think I'll probably lose at least 2 pounds this week. So I mean, I always knew it was going to slow down, and I might have to adjust or do more working out or something. But my next goal is to get under 200 pounds by Thanksgiving, by Halloween. That's what it is. I don't know if that's going to be possible. That's what? Just under 20 pounds. That'll be tough. That'll be in 2 months. I'll really have to pick it up the next couple weeks. I forgot about that. We'll see. Thanksgiving is like the little more of a stretch, or not, a little bit less of a stretch goal. Halloween, it would be nice because a woman I'm dating has 2 kids, and it's an excuse for me to trick or treat. And if you think I'm a 33-year-old man who won't trick or treat, you're wrong, because I will, and I'm planning on it. So if I lose, I guess just under 20 pounds and I'm under 200 pounds, I'm gonna have some candy. But I will see what happens. I'm weighing in today, the day that this comes out. I'll be weighing in again, and it's going. There's nothing else I can really say. It's not losing weight isn't my favorite thing in the world. I don't want to ever, if you're out there and you're thinking about like, oh, should I start? Should I not start? I'm not trying to paint a picture of it's an amazing, fun experience. I've been eating riced cauliflower now. I went from having pasta and bread to having some rice occasionally to having couscous, and now I've pretty much, I told you about it last week, that Green Giant riced cauliflower. And it's not terrible, but it is not pasta or mac and cheese. And it's a little bit, gets frustrating at times. Just, I was going to say I can't eat what I want to eat. I could. No one's stopping me, but I'm focused on losing weight right now, and I want to get down definitely under 200 pounds. I'll be at 150 pounds lost at 186. Yeah, when I get to 186, that'll be 150 pounds. At the minimum, I think I'd like to get to 170 pounds, so that would be 166 pounds lost. I'd really like to even get closer to like 150, but that's a long way off. That's like 70 pounds from now. So we'll see if I ever get there. I also will eventually have to talk about the skin removal surgery, which is something that Tyler and I talk about. So I'm going to get right into Tyler. I would very quickly want to thank our sponsor for this week, which is Sheath Underwear. Hello, Sheath Underwear. Sheath Underwear is celebrating the 100 pounds that I lost, and they sent me some of their underwear. I love it. It's great for me, guys, any guys, big or small. And if you ladies or men, if you have a man in your life, they're going to love this underwear. It's soft. It's supportive. They have a 2-pouch compartment, which really helps in working out. Things aren't flopping around. Things are compact. They're nice. It feels good, and you look good. You look sexy. Your butt looks great. And I'm a man talking about another man's butt, but you, sir, your butt's gonna look. Ooh, your girlfriend's just gonna grab it and bite it, and she's gonna love it. Do me a favor. Go to sheathunderwear.com and check it out. Check out the one of my favorite things about this product is that not only is it an American-made company, an American-owned company, but it's a veteran-owned company. U.S. Army soldier Robert Patton created and had the idea for Sheath Underwear on his second tour in Iraq, and if it's good enough for his balls, it's good enough for mine. Go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code Syatt, SYATT, to get 20% off of your first order. And don't forget, you're not going to need this, but if for some reason you're like, I don't like it, which is not going to happen, you can go to every order comes with Sheath Underwear's 100% money back guarantee. So just do me a favor. Go to sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code Syatt. Get some of their products. They also have shirts and what is that? See, I can't even think because it's so hot out. It's sweatshirts. They have a whole bunch. They have a lot of great products, but you're gonna want the underwear. It's soft. It's supportive, and it supports me, and it supports a veteran-owned company. Do me a favor, sheathunderwear.com, promo code Syatt. Get Sheath Underwear and let them support your balls. Thank you so much to Sheath Underwear, and thank you so much to Dr. Manley for coming on this week's episode of the Waistline Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on, Tyler. It's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, you as well, man.
I spoke to you. God, I don't even know when it was. It was right when I first started this on my other podcast, and that was mainly just about just regular doctor stuff. And what I am having you on today to talk about is a couple things. Mainly what you think has changed after losing weight, like what changes your body goes through when you lose weight. But I wanted to start with something. I think I know your answer, but I'll say it anyways. Because of COVID, I didn't get a physical last year. I get physicals almost every year, and I'm in a place right now where I probably should get one, but I kind of and I know this is the wrong thought to have, but I don't want to because I know that I'm still overweight for my height, and I'd kind of want to go in when I'm like at a good weight. But I like how do you deal with like heavy clients or patients? I guess that's what they are for you. But like, do you recommend you go every year? Like, how can you talk to me about like how often you should see a doctor and if it's worth it to go even when you're overweight and all
Sure.
that?
So, just generally speaking, guidelines will say yearly. So, if you're completely healthy, you should still go in every year. That being said, at a younger age, we don't do screening labs every year. I tell people that when you're young, your body's really good at compensating. So, even if you're 400 pounds, when you're 25 or 30, your labs are going to look normal. That doesn't mean you're healthy. You and I both know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd actually be surprised with how I'm going to answer this, but I would not put you on medicines almost no matter what your lab said anyway. And you are doing exactly what I would ever recommend to you, whether you had diabetes or high cholesterol or whatever. So believe it or not, I don't think you going in is all that crucial as long as you're feeling well.
Oh wow, that I don't know if that's the right. It's dangerous information for me to have. I'll be like, Tyler told me I didn't have to go. Um, how do you deal? And this is because this is something I've spoken to with people on this podcast before. There's a lot of anxiety for me with going to the doctor because it feels like it almost feels like you're going to the principal's office when you're fat. Because I mean, you're not supposed to be fat. There's a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
goes wrong when you're fat. Um, and frankly, I never really had too bad of an experience. I mean, they would be frank with me and they'd be like, "Well, you should lose weight and all that." But I never really got shamed. But as a doctor, how do you approach when someone who's overweight comes in?
So I'll tiptoe around it. Um, to this day, I actually still haven't met somebody who's totally oblivious to it and just in denial. They know, just like I know. And so it'll get brought up casually in conversation because most problems revolve around obesity, truthfully. Um, from there, it's usually just me questioning them and saying, "What do you think about it? What are your struggles with it? What's your energy like? How do you eat?" I don't just flat out bring up just weight itself because people are going to shut down when it comes to that. But they're pretty open when you give them the space to give you an open-ended answer as to what their struggles are. And they're usually looking for advice with it.
And how much of that is just like your personal experience and learning dealing with patients, or is that like something you go through in medical school, like how to deal with quite tough issues like that?
And I'm sure they tried to teach us. Whether I remember them doing it or not, I don't know. I'm going to blame it mostly on me being in Wisconsin around people who love cheese and ice cream and
Oh yeah,
just seeing a ton of it and training here. And just being small town and personable. I don't want to feel attacked, so why would the patient too? Is my thought.
right. And like, does it change at all based on like if I do you change how you respond to if it's like a kid versus an adult? Like, are you like is it more like do you try to like steer a kid away from it, or how do you change your response based on the person?
So it's interesting. With kids, I never really want to bring it up as weight at all. I will just talk about what they eat and ask them if they get outside. 99% of the time, that's the problem. They eat too much candy, they drink soda, they never get off the couch. And you can fix it with that. Now, there's a rare population where they become insulin resistant or they're just kind of metabolically broken from things that we eat and whatnot. But then you get specialists involved at that point. Um, Middle-aged people are a lot easier to just flat out address, like, hey, what are you doing? What's your struggles? You're stressed, you know. And then when we start talking the more geriatric population, I'm pretty laxed. I tell them all the time, it's at some point, it's not worth trying to get your diabetes under the tightest control when you're 85. Like, go eat your piece of cake. It's okay. Enjoy life, you know?
That's funny. I mean, it's strange to think about, but I mean, I was big my whole life, and I think I had got more flack from it from doctors younger as a kid, which I don't really blame her for. But like I remember her sitting me down with my not a folder. What is it called in doctor terms? File, like your
Just, yeah, your medical record or
charts,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
your
Yep.
records.
Sure.
And I was gaining like 20 pounds a year, and I just remember it always being like an issue, and I think I probably told this because to me it's kind of funny now, but like whenever I go into the doctor now, I hate weighing in because they make you weigh in. Like I purposely wear gym shorts because there's no way I'm weighing in with jeans on. It's crazy, but it's a very it's a stressful thing to have to do, especially when you know that you're bigger. So before we talk about, and please go listen to Tyler's episode. I'll tell you the number in the intro for which one he was on. What was I thinking? But you mentioned a few minutes ago that a lot of the problems people deal with are caused by obesity. Can you just run through like between like the breathing, your heart, like what problems if you saw someone, I guess, and is there a huge difference? Like what amount overweight do you start seeing like a big issue?
That's tough to give you a direct answer.
Okay.
The vast majority of people, I guess, if you want to use a BMI scale, which isn't perfect, but in general, when you get over 30 BMI, you're starting to get into that territory
And is that
of,
like what, 20 pounds, 50 pounds?
I would say for most people, it's probably 20-ish, 20 to 25.
Wow. Okay.
Um, but the BMI scale is not perfect. Don't get completely wrapped up in that.
Right.
Some
It,
people are going to teeter on the edge, say 5 pounds, they're diabetic. And if they lose 5 pounds, they're not. It's sometimes that fine of a line.
wow. Okay. And so what sort of problems do you see in overweight people?
Anything and everything, my friend. The most common ones being sleep apnea, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. But like, I'll give you an example. I happened to see a patient today in his 50s, early 50s. He was 278 pounds 6 months ago, diagnosed with high blood pressure, diabetes, sleep apnea, that three. And he told me, which I'm totally fine with, I'm changing my life. I'm going to lose weight. I'm exercising and I'm going to eat differently. So, all right, I'll give you 6 months. I'll see you back in 6 months. Guy lost 50 pounds, stopped all of
Nice.
his meds. He's on nothing now. He's probably got better labs than I have, and stopped using his CPAP for his sleep apnea. It's like all this stuff is easily fixable. You just have to do the right things.
So so that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So I've lost over 100 pounds. Like, so first I wanted to ask, like, I don't. People ask me this question a lot. Do I feel different? I really don't. In a weird way, like I feel like maybe it's a little bit easier to breathe. It's There's not pain if I'm like standing up for a long time when that was starting to happen.
Yep.
But other than that, I feel pretty similar to the same. And I know you don't have like my records or anything like that, but what would you imagine? Because I haven't really, I changed my diet a little bit, but I still eat cheese. I still eat red meat. Like, if you had to guess what's changed over the 100 pounds.
So that goes back to me talking about how when you're young, your body's just really good at compensating. So those are going to be minor things that you're going to notice. But yeah, the breathing and just joint pain, probably. Now, when you get older, people who have really terrible diabetes, they might have like the neuropathy or the zinging down their legs that they get. And so if you lose a bunch of weight, that goes away. Or they have high blood pressure and that causes headaches. They lose weight, that goes away. So you just don't have enough medical problems right now, I guess, and you're young enough that you don't notice huge changes beyond just breathing better and a little joint pain. Not to mention self-confidence. I mean, that plays a huge role too.
Right. It does. I mean, it does play a big role. I did have, and I got checked with not last year because of COVID, but the year before, and I never had diabetes. But my right leg on the side, it would tingle a little bit sometimes if I was standing up for a while,
Sure.
and I read. And I know you're not supposed to self-diagnose yourself, and I'm sure it drives you guys nuts. But I read it was something like the nerve was encased in too much fat.
You probably, just because you had so much weight on your belly, it basically is pulling the spinal cord a little bit. Not the You're pinching it, and so depending on your mechanics of how you're sitting, standing, you're basically just pinching that nerve. Whether or
Okay.
not it's encased in fat or not, it's really irrelevant. But
Okay. That got it. So it's how do you how do you make people come to see you more often? Because I know that we've been talking about, I avoid the doctor. How do you is it is there something that you do to try to make people more comfortable, or to come in, or how do you deal with that?
I mean, the clinic promotes it, so they'll reach out to people if they haven't been seen for a while. But ultimately, it's a lot like anything. People, you're not going to change anybody's mind. If they want help, they want help. If they don't, they don't. And when they come in, you just make it a pleasurable experience and don't make anybody afraid to come in there and open up to you. That's
Well,
like the biggest thing. And it goes from our staff at the front desk all the way through me.
right. Well, I guess what would you say to someone like me, maybe who's moved, or even if I haven't moved? Because I think the issue with that would be like you said, like your office will reach out if they haven't been in a while, but sometimes you just don't have a doctor.
Yeah, that
Like
gets really tough.
how do you what would you say to somebody who's too scared or nervous or anxious to go, or like they have been but they know they should go, they have issues?
So that's where like the people who work in the urgent cares and the emergency rooms and fast cares, they become crucial. Because eventually something's going to happen that you have to go in, whether you fell off a bike or you got an infected toenail or, something weird. And those people are going to see, hey, it doesn't look like you have a primary doc, or you haven't been in for a while. What's going on? Do you want to set up with this person? And they can help reinforce the importance of that. Yeah, there are people who live under a rock for 40 years, man, and all of a sudden they show up at my door, and you just start there.
How and you were talking about the things, because this is a weight loss podcast, so you're talking about like the blood pressure and the cholesterol and the breathing. How much of that is reversible? Like, if I is cholesterol any? If are all the French fries I ate for the last 10 years ever gonna go? Like, are they like? Am I gonna get like? My big worry is I'm gonna lose all this weight. I'm gonna get healthier, but I've already done too much damage, and I'm gonna have a heart attack anyways.
So, just speaking cholesterol, you can make those numbers look good, but there's no way to reverse any sort of plaque that you already have in your arteries. Like that's there, nothing you can do. You just try to control things from getting worse. That's it. And long story short, everything's reversible to some degree. DNA is going to play a role. So you can have the worst genetics ever, do everything right, and your stuff's still high. But I've seen people fix like the worst cases of diabetes that they've been on insulin, but they change their life around. And I've seen people fix ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease just by changing their diet. I mean, it's incredible. Like, I wouldn't believe this stuff, and no textbook will even tell you that it exists without seeing it from other doctors. Like, a friend of mine who's a doctor cured his Crohn's disease by just going gluten free. It's mind boggling.
And what I know that I'm sure for different ailments there are different diets, but what for the average person, what sort of diet as far as like types of food or like yeah, what do you normally recommend as a diet for regular people?
I'm a big pusher of the intermittent fasting, or OMAD, whatever you call it. I think that that's awesome just because that's how my brain works. Like, I hate the whole concept of eating these tiny little meals throughout the day and then never feeling full. And it's just not nearly as effective. Um, so that's the first thing that I push. And then from there, it's just avoiding things that make you feel inflamed, more or less. A lot of times that's sugar or gluten, carbohydrate type stuff for the most part. Some people get it with dairy. And so you'll just feel a lot better when you don't take it in. You'll have more energy. Maybe you won't have stomach cramps or, issues with bowel movements, that sort of thing.
When you say inflamed, because I've heard that a lot, I don't really know what does that feel like? I don't even know what that means. I know what it
So
means, but I don't know what it feels like, I guess.
yeah, it's loaded, right? Because it's sort of like when you weigh 350 pounds. Like, if you weighed 350 pounds today, like if I just threw all that back on you, you would hate the world. Like, your whole body would hurt. So some people don't even know how terrible they feel because they've just gotten used to it.
Right.
But for the most part, if you go on a diet, you're going to make some improvements. And it's mostly because you're avoiding these inflammatory garbage foods for you. And then as you lose the weight, it continues to go down from there.
But like when you say inflammatory, do you feel swollen? Like I like what is like if you were gonna describe the symptoms of being inflamed, what would you say?
Yeah. So if you think about it in the joints, usually, yeah, like swollen, painful, or bloated. A lot of people who get GI complaints will feel bloated or gassy, that sort of thing.
I always feel gassy. I don't know. I don't know if that's me or it's just because I get that question a lot of how do I feel, and you know what? Is it sort of like the thing where they say like if you put a frog in boiling water, he'll jump out, but if you slowly get it to boil, then he won't. Like because I was almost 350 pounds. I was probably like less than a year away from getting there. I was at 336 at my heaviest,
Yeah.
and I think I felt mostly okay. Like, but you think if just I woke up and I was 336 pounds again, you think I would notice a lot of differences?
Oh yeah. You would hate yourself. It's what I tell people. Totally different thing, but like pregnant women. Um, the only reason that they can do that is because it goes slow. If they just went from 0 to 9 months pregnant, it would be the worst thing in the world. Uh, just such a drastic change, for your joints and whatnot. Our bodies are pretty incredible at compensating to different things we put it through.
Wow. And what about that? I mean, and I know obviously everyone's different, but how is losing weight different from men and women?
So women sometimes have to play around with their menstrual cycle, and that can play a role in things, which gets to be frustrating. For men, it's usually much more straightforward, and it's just something that we're doing to ourselves. But like the people who have those weird insulin resistant stuff and thyroid stuff, you see that a lot more in females. Um, Plus, you can just, when you're going through different menstrual cycles, it's more inflammatory and pro weight gain. And so that gets to be tricky.
Is it more like the stereotype, like, oh, women want chocolate on their periods? Like, is it like something like that? Like they have like cravings that they don't have throughout the month, or what? Like, if during someone's period, if they ate the same things that like they were eating throughout the rest of the month, would they still lose weight, or is there something like going on?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. It's not that they can't lose weight. It's just if you think about it, every month a female's body is preparing to be pregnant.
Okay.
And so it releases this egg and it builds up a lining. Think of it as like it's laying a bed in the uterus, just waiting for this baby to come in, right? And then eventually it abandons ship and says, all right, nothing, shed, period. But that moment when it's laying the bed per se can be more difficult for people to lose weight because their body mechanics and their endocrine system is telling them, hey, let's get prepared to, foster a child sort of thing.
Damn.
But
Okay.
we're talking small windows and not making a huge difference for everybody. It's just one thing that can show up.
Hey, but I mean, I have no self control. So if every month I got really hungry or moody, like I could imagine that would. I mean, it's already tough.
Yeah.
Um, and what about? And this is weird, but I just started dating somebody, and ever since we started dating, she made fun of me that I had a flat butt, like I had a small butt. And I had girlfriends in the past, literally like jiggle it. They were like, "Oh, you have a jiggly butt." So I was like, "What? She's joking. I don't know what she's talking about." And I actually looked in the mirror last night, and it just like I feel like I just lost my entire like that's where I lost the 100 pounds was my butt. Like, do you, is there any science to like where you lose the weight in your body? Like I'm like I really hold a lot of weight in my stomach, and I feel like it's gotten smaller, but it's still not like it's still
Yeah.
holding on for dear life right there. Like how did can you target areas or how does your body choose where to take the weight from?
It's genetic. I mean, stereotypically speaking, males put it in their belly, females put it in their hips. So you talk about apple versus pear look, basically. Males also like to get it in the neck, which is why a lot of them get sleep apnea because the weight of the neck just closes off the airway when they're sleeping.
Jesus. Okay.
But
But there's no specific way like to be like if I want to lose weight in my stomach, like I guess maybe I could work out and do some, uh, or would that not even do really anything?
I mean, it would build up your muscle there, but your body's just going to break down fat as it gets it. The only way to truly target it is to like be one of the Kardashians and get liposuction.
Now
That's about
is
all you
that
got.
is now I know that's kind of a joke, but is that I've always wondered that like is there like could they go in and take 100 pounds out, or is it that would that be too drastic?
Dude, it happens in Hollywood all the time. They hide the cuts in the folds of the skin and then go in and just start sucking away the fat cells.
And what would happen if you took like that amount of would that is that dangerous to take that much weight just immediately out of somebody?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not an expert in this, but in general, you still have all that skin there. So that would be
Right.
the first thing that would be weird. Um, After that, yeah, I'm sure it's going to change your metabolism to some degree. And I'm sure there's restrictions to exactly how much they'll take. But a lot of famous people, man, rather than working for it the hard way, that's what they'll do.
Oh, if I had the money, I'd be doing like that. I have no judgment towards them.
Yeah.
You said skin. I do want to get to that, but just quickly before I don't know what it is. I feel like, and this kind of, I'll say the least gross way I can. I feel like my stomach is losing weight, but it's still like I'm just jiggling it right now. It feels like there's like a bunch of water in there. Is there like is that something like? Does it turn to water first? Like, is there a reason why it just feels like my stomach is like a water balloon?
Some of it I think is related to those fat cells. I think your brother might have even talked about this at one point
Right. He
about
like it
how those
turns
cells are changing. Yeah.
right absorbs water or something.
Yeah. And then after that, there's still loose skin. So all that skin that had to be there when you weighed 336 or whatever you said,
Yeah.
um, that doesn't just disappear. And that can be the most frustrating thing for people who lose a significant amount of weight. And
Right.
so a lot of people will end up seeing someone to actually get some of that excess skin removed. To think about it, that's a cheating way to get like another 10 pounds.
Oh, trust me, I'm definitely gonna do it if I can afford it. At
Yeah.
whenever my plan right now is to lose the weight, which is probably gonna take at least another 8 to 12 months because I want to lose like another 70 pounds. But the loose skin thing is something that I'm really uh focused on. I mean I have it. I've lost weight a bunch of times, and here it happens a lot. I'm used to
Mhm.
that, but like now around my legs I have it, my pelvis area I have it.
Yep.
Um, is I know you've said that like when you're young your body will bounce back. Is there like if I'm in your 30s, is it too late? Like, am I gonna have like an enormous amount of loose skin? Is there anything you can do to help with that, or is it just it's the damage is done and you kind of have to get the surgery?
Yeah, there's not a ton you can do about that. I mean, if you got muscle mass, that would replace it.
It's
And
a lot of
so,
muscle. I don't know if I could. That it's gonna be a lot of muscle.
but beyond that, no, it ends up just being skin that's there. I mean, it does shrink some. Your skin cells are constantly turning over, so they're not going to reproduce as much as they were in the past because it's not growing anymore.
Right.
But it'll never go back to what you were like when you were, 15 without surgical intervention.
Well, I was fat at 15, so I mean it was more like this. Um, what what are I mean, and I know there's risks to any surgery, but do you recommend skin removal surgery to everybody? Is it very dangerous? What is that like?
Honestly, I've never had anybody do it. Probably just because I couldn't afford it. But in general, I wouldn't think it'd come with that many risks. I'd say the bigger thing is be very confident you're going to keep that weight off, or else it would be a gigantic waste of money.
Right.
Um, but from there, I mean, it should be pretty simple. It's basically just taking a part out and putting it back together and finding someone who can do it. You'd have to see plastics and probably pay for the vast majority of that out of pocket because it's technically a cosmetic thing.
Is there Are there any downsides to keeping the skin on you? Like, is there like you more prone to infection because it's just kind of like loose and just hanging there?
Yeah, in theory. Outside of that, not much. But you see it like women get really frustrated with it after they are pregnant because now they have these breasts that are chock full of milk and then it goes away, but the skin is still there. And so they're more prone to getting yeast and fungal infections like underneath their breast area. For
Right.
guys, you see it in the belt line all the time.
Oh yeah. I mean, luckily, knock on wood, I don't have anything right now, but it's something that I'm really worried about. It's just it's like when we've been talking about you coming on, you mentioned like that you deal with a lot of people's mental health,
Hmm?
and it's like it's the thought we were just talking about. I've even in my head, and I want to get down to as close to 150 as I can. Um, but part of me has had the thought of, well, right now I've lost a lot of weight, but my stomach it's fat, but it looks kind of like normal. Like it doesn't look like a deflated balloon that much. So like I've had the thought of
Yeah.
like, oh well, maybe I should just stick it with the weight I've lost. Like how do you when you're dealing with people's mental health, how do you help them like not make weird bad decisions like that?
So it was really interesting that you actually brought this up on your other podcast and just talking about being content in life and not having the highs and lows. And so the main job that I talk to everybody about when I see them, no matter what their diagnosis is I want to keep you at that content line. And that's the goal. Don't go chasing these crazy ideals and don't get mad, over things that aren't that important. And honestly, I think you've done an awesome job with it. You talked about the gratitude thing too, that goes into it. And just kind of changing that mindset and never making drastic decisions, letting things breathe for a little while. That's super critical to anybody's mental health and decision making.
I think you're right. I think it's like I've had, and it's nothing terrible, but I've had like a frustrating couple days. Just a lot of stuff going on, with like the work and just people, and it's just like that used to trigger me. I hate that word, but it used to make me like just like revert back to like, oh, let's just eat whatever I want to eat. And it's the thing I've learned or has been confirmed, because it's true for me, but in talking to everyone that I've talked to on this podcast over the last, God, like 6 months, it just shows me how, like, I think something I would say to someone who's like really skinny, who like maybe my bullies in school or whatever. It's like, yeah, there's definitely a self control aspect to gaining weight, but I think that it's just, for me, it's a very emotional thing that
Mhm.
I just, is there, do you know about this? Is it like, does like eating, what does that do to someone in the brain? Like, why does it make me happy, or like at least turn off like the upsetness when I'm eating food that I like?
It's a dopamine or a pleasure hormone release for you. And it is for everybody. Most people get that when they eat, and that's a normal thing. Some probably get it a little bit stronger than others. And so that's what they go to for their stress relief rather than, you know, I don't know, whatever other people are addicted to or, enjoy.
And how,
And
oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, so many people will shame you and talk about it being a control thing, but like genetics in weight is so important. It's unreal. I mean, there's a lot of people that I see who are super skinny and they eat fast food all the time. That's just the way they're made.
And when, because I hear that all the time, genetics, like a lot of my family deals with weight issues. What is it in genetics that causes that? Is it like a type of cell? Like, when people say genetics, what does that even really mean?
Just their makeup. For whatever reason, they're able to break things down faster. Or they have just a better response to different things that they're putting in their body, more efficient. But then there's going to be give and take. That person might also be more prone to cancer or something like that.
Oh, there's things in your genetics that will make you prone to cancer?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's so crazy how like we're all affected by different things, and I think a lot of bigger people, and I know I would get frustrated, like, oh, it's like, this is what I struggle with, but it's just nice to know that I guess that, like, there is a benefit to losing. Like, has there ever been anybody who you've told, like, it's not worth it for you to lose weight, or like, is it? It just seems like, I don't know. Has that ever been a thing?
I mean, the elderly, I would say.
Just the
I'll have
elderly,
like, I'll have little 80-year-old grandmas come in and they're all mad because they weigh 135 pounds and they want to weigh 100. And I'm like, what? You're being ridiculous, sort of thing. It
okay,
happens, or people who have eating disorders, that becomes a big deal.
right,
Talking to them about just staying a healthy weight and how that is important and good for you.
right.
So it happens, but yeah, the vast majority could lose weight.
That's interesting. Well, Tyler, I really appreciate you. Actually, you know what? Screw it, Dr. Manley. That's how I'm gonna refer to you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with us. I just really appreciate it, and it's always great to talk to you.
Anytime, buddy. It was great to talk to you too.
Thank you so much to Dr. Manley for coming on this week. I really appreciate his time. For those of you who don't know, how could you know? He was supposed to come on earlier in the week, and at his doctor's office, he sent me a message. He's like, hey, 3 out of the 4 doctors, and I'm the fourth, got COVID, so I'm the only one here, and I'm a little bit swamped. Do you mind pushing it back? And I said, oh, of course. I mean, even before COVID, I don't have what it takes to handle the stress of being a doctor, because they have to deal with patients and people, and I'm one of them. I think I probably mentioned this in the first episode that we did. If not, Tyler, this is a funny story for you. When I was a young child, I was not only I wasn't anti-vax, I was anti-shot. I hated shot. I was very scared, and I had a not even not I, my doctor and I had an understanding that I don't like shots, and I need to get myself in the right mind and headspace to receive a shot. So it might take a little bit, and I will let you know when I'm ready. And for some reason, after years of this, my pediatrician, I don't know, she might have had other doctoring to do, or, maybe wanted to go have lunch or fart, who knows, but she was in a rush and just decided that she was ready, and I decided that I was not ready. So when she came in with the needle, dun, dun, like, in movies when they go slow-mo with the music, I smacked her hand away, and that might have been bad enough already, but it became immediately worse. Like, oh no, because she stabbed herself in the finger. She stabbed herself in the finger with my shot, and surprisingly, that did not end our working relationship. But she did make sure I was ready for the shot from then on. Stabbing yourself is it's a wake up call. So that being said, I did not mind waiting a couple days to postpone this podcast, because if I had to deal with that or anything, I can't imagine spending some time with me after a very long work day. So Tyler, Dr. Manley, sir, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to Sheath Underwear. That's sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code Syatt, SYATT, to get 20% off of your first order. That's sheathunderwear.com, promo code Syatt. And don't forget, email me, wastelinepodcast@gmail.com. That's wastelinepodcast@gmail.com if you would like to be a guest. Again, I apologize to everyone who was expecting an email. It's the Jewish holidays. It's important to my mom, so I have a few days, the next 2 weeks, where I am not able to be in the office, and that's where I need to be to record the interviews. So if you were thinking about it, email me. I'd love to have you on and talk about what you're going through. Thank you so much to Tyler. Thank you to Sheath Underwear. And thank you for watching and listening. And I'll be back next week with a new Wasteline podcast.